Summonaria! You don't want to touch it?
I'm not holding this game.
Okay.
Let me scoot it back so you can see the box there.
It's actually a big chunky box, which really has no business being this big. It could probably be half the size and everything fit inside. But Summonaria is another one of the games that is in this genre that seems to be expanding of you putting cards or things on a board and moving around and attacking. This game, it's tiles. And you're going to be bringing these tiles into play with spell components. It almost feels like Settlers of Catan, as you get resources and build you use those resources to build something. Except this thing is a monster. Has an unusual combat system. Stop. Let's look at it first.
Yes, let's look at it.
And then we will heap glowing praise upon it. Here's the game board, split into squares, and the game comes with one die of 3 different colors. You get a 10-sided and an 8-sided and a 6-sided, and these are not even the dice that come with the game because one die of each is a ridiculous. You need this many dice if you're going to be playing this game. Now, I need to mention to you, if you get the game and you get the rule book here, and the rule book is a useful, handy thing to any game. And this game also comes with a really nice little book here that talks about each of the characters in the game and explains how their special abilities work, which isn't necessary for most of them, and gives background to how it works. A nice book, but seriously, you must read this Rules Errata. This is critical. You know, every once in a while you read Rules Errata, and it's like, it's a small change. There's like 3 major changes in here. So here's how the game works. And there's also optional rules that you must play with. Don't play with the optional rules that make the game harder. But on your turn, you're going to be drawing from this deck of cards. And this deck of cards has all of these, weird things, but only matters up here are those those icons up there. And you're trying to get different resources of different types, which you can then trade to other players, like Settlers of Catan. And you want those because each player is going to have characters. Now, here's a close look at this character, and you see that up in the top corner, there's 3 resources that are needed for this character. Actually, this character only needs 1. He needs mushrooms, and then the gems, and then dragon's tooth. He only needs 1 dragon's tooth to get out. Okay? And each monster has a regular side and a blessed side. The blessed side simply means they have 1 more victory point. If there's a reason there's 3 resources, if you don't have any dragon's tooth, then you can use the gem. If you don't have any gems, you can use any mushroom. Well, there's actually 4 resources in the game, and so there's a 4th resource which you simply won't need. So you can see, for example, here, this faction needs dragon's tooth first, then they need the gems, then they need the fairy dust. So the first one listed on everyone is the best one that you can get because you can use it for all your resources. And then the second one can be used for the second and the third one. So if I'm the purple faction, dragon's tooth are awesome. And gems are great. And fairy dust is decent. But mushrooms, I don't need them. I can trade them to other players, or I can trade 3 of them to the bank to take a resource of my choice. But on your turn, one of the things you can do is you can summon 1 creature. So you pay the costs, and then you place that creature on the board in a spot where you can summon creatures, depending on what faction of the board you control. You can also move creatures around the board, and you want to move them to towers, or you want to move them into a temple that's in the corners of the board, and when you move into a temple, then you become blessed. Now, there's a couple stats on the card. First of all is up here. This is 2d8, so when she attacks, she uses 2 8-sided dice. She has 3 hit points, that's the next number, and then the third number is the number of movement. And then if there's any other special abilities on a creature, it will tell you what those special abilities are. So here we see the Giant King. It rolls 3d10 and rolls 3d10 also. When you attack another creature, let's say, for example, I'm using that 3d10, you roll the dice, and you were trying to get 1s and 2s. I didn't get any. So then they get to roll back and attack me, unless it's a ranged attack, in which case they don't. If I do roll any 1s or 2s, well, that's no good. I'm not rolling very well. I rolled a 2, hurrah! I can continue rolling until I roll and don't get any hits. So you can see in this game that rolling a 6-sided die is much preferred to rolling a 10-sided dice. But 1 6-sided die to 3 10-sided dice, so it's kind of a funky combat system. but that's how combat works. Your goal is to get people into as many towers as you can on the board. And the first person to control a certain number of towers, which depends on how many players are playing in the game, is the winner. There are 5 different factions that you can choose from. There's a blue faction, which it looks like they're mostly dwarves and elves helping the dwarves. And then we have the yellow faction, which is animals like the wasp and the snake. It's kind of like the nature faction. There's a centaur, the fantasy style thing. And then we got the red evil faction. You can see skeletons and gargoyles and ghouls and the darkling and gorgon. And you have different amounts of these people. I usually take them and set them all up in front of me so I can see all of them. Purple is the elementals. Here I have my earth elemental and my golem, and later on the air elemental and the water elemental and the mage, and there's the fire elemental. That's a shocker. And then the green is, you've already seen them, but they're kind of like the trolls and goblins and orcs and cyclops and that sort of nature. Your typical fantasy stuff. There's some special abilities. Some can fly. Some can move faster. You also get an extra 10-sided die added to you when you're defending in your realm. That's you start with at the beginning of the game. But that's basically it. You keep going until either one of 2 things happens. You control all the towers on the board, or someone kicks the table over and demands that this must stop now. Okay. Summonaria. Okay, let's start with the good. The artwork is really good. I really enjoyed the artwork. It's cartoony, but I don't know. I like cartoony fantasy stuff. You don't agree?
Yeah. Well, this was, for my tastes, my personal taste. This was on the, I guess the artwork was okay, but.
Okay, component-wise, I guess the tiles are fine, the cards are fine.
Yes.
They should have had more dice. It's ridiculous to come with 1 die of each.
The color palette for the cards was not cool, though.
Oh, yeah, I didn't like that at all.
It's too dark.
Each spell component should have been a different color.
Yeah.
Okay, is that the good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Let's start with the bad now.
Okay.
The one thing I really... Well, one of the things I didn't like was that there's 4 spell components, and one of them you don't need. Now, we played a 3-player game, and he needed 3 spell components, I needed 3 spell components, and neither one of us needed mushrooms, and our opponent needed mushrooms.
Yeah, it was like his main crop thing.
And that was terrible, because we could trade them to him, but so he could give back to us, maybe. Now, let's say, though, that's taken out of the game and you balance it out. Okay, 4 people, and you all need the different spell components. Still, the whole trading thing is just... It's kind of pointless. I mean, I'll give you some of these if you give me those. Nah, I don't want to, because you never have enough of what you need anyway.
Yeah, and that reminds me of Settlers of Catan, because usually when you got one guy that's in the lead, nobody wants to trade with him, and that's how this game is from the very beginning. You don't want to trade with somebody else because that just means they're going to get their better characters on the board before you do.
Yeah, but see, in Settlers of Catan, the trading was integral because I might be getting wheat and you don't get any, and so I can trade with you. But in this one, you're drawing cards randomly from the top of the deck, so if someone draws well, he doesn't need to trade anyway, but then it shuts down the whole trading engine.
Right.
And you're only allowed to have 7 cards in your hand. But, okay, so that's bad.
Bad.
Combat.
Sure.
When I first read the rules, before we read the updated thing, it said you only hit on a 1. Wow. And even in the updated, they said that's you can play a tough battle. Do you know how awfully slow and boring combat would be? The combat, though, it's crazy. You roll dice, and you might hit, and even powerful people can easily miss. You hit someone, and they're dead. And the game runs at such a slow pace, you're like, I move. I finally got combat! Oh, you killed me.
It's not simultaneous combat, either. That's what I didn't like about it. Whoever struck first had an overwhelming advantage in the battle.
Well, I don't mind that as much, but it was hard for a lot to move into position to even attack.
Right, because you had to use your movement points, and you had to have enough movement points to get in without going over.
And it's just slow.
Very slow.
You have to capture a certain amount of towers.
Yeah.
The only way you can do that successfully is hoping your opponents sleep.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to keep producing more creatures and bring them out, and there's a never-ending stopping point. See, that's when you play games like Warcraft or Command and Conquer, you're harvesting resources, and so you can keep putting out troops. So you need to shut those resources off so they can't put out more troops.
Right.
Since these resources are never ending, the guy who draws the best is going to win, or come close to winning, and then everyone else will beat him down. And then someone else will come close to winning, and everyone will beat them down, and then...
But if you come back to... Hey, wake up.
Yeah.
If you come back to the combat system, even if you get the big guys out there, they could easily be knocked off.
Yeah, wow. I spent all my effort into getting... You need 7 resources to put out your best person. And you're only allowed to have 7 cards in your hand.
So you have to get the exactly perfect combination.
I finally get it. I get the guy out, he runs out, dead.
Yep.
And that blessed thing, you run all halfway across the board to give an extra hit point, which feels like a huge waste of time, but you have to do it.
Yeah, because it's just 1 shot, or 2 shots. For the bigger people, I think they had, well, they were all different. That's why I didn't hold it. But
it's blocking my view.
Yeah, it's
all right.
Just
I'm giving this one 2,000 thumbs down. I really didn't like it.
He had to have a lot of people to help him with that 2,000 thumbs down.
Okay, everybody, thumbs down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just going to simply say, don't waste your time.
All right.
I'm sorry to those who made it.
You can play it online too, though, if you want to check it out.
Hey, play it online. It might be better.
It might move faster.
It might.